Alright, so today we'll be looking at the Windover Pond site and how this seasonally used site in Brevard County has shaped our understanding of archaic Florida, and more specifically the mortuary practices of the Middle Archaic Southeastern United States. Alright, so in 1982, a backhoe operator by the name of Steve Vanderjart, a backhoe is this contraption you see here, this yellow thing, stopped operating or stopped building through the wetlands of Brevard County near Titusville and Cape Canaveral because he stumbled on what he thought to be rocks at first. And understanding the topography and landscape of Florida, he knew that no rocks of this size were this close to the surface, especially in this form. Maybe some limestone would come up, but all in small pieces, not condensed to the size. Now, soon after cleaning off these so-called rocks, he discovered that these were really human skulls. Local forensics initially believed that these were white deaths, maybe burials within the last 50 to 100 years, maybe more, but they were very wrong. So medical examiners then came out and said, no, these are much older than we believe. Florida State University was notified and sent out archaeologists Glenn Doran and David Dickel to excavate the site. Radiocarbon analysis of 2 bone samples put the site at over 7,000 years old. Now, one dating was about to 7,200 years ago, and then the other dating was about 7,300 years ago. Now, what is so fascinating and unique about the Windover Pond site is that despite all these ecological threats, that being, first, Father Time, right? Aerobic bacteria would eventually break down all the organic material from the bones, the wooden tools that we do find, the drinking gourd would all be broken down by decomposers and microscopic bacteria in the soil. Now, the peat that covers the bottom of the pond keeps such a low pH and low oxygen levels that nothing can really live there. It pretty much preserves these organic material for many years. Now, another thing about Windover Pond that is unique is how the indigenous peoples of this area buried their loved ones or friends. They, as we'll see in the next slide, they staked them down, really made sure they couldn't float up or be maybe intruded upon by some scavengers like a raccoon or a panther, an alligator, or what have you. Now, another thing is, this here is actually a picture of Windover Pond. That cypressy, swampy wetlands that we're pretty familiar with here in Florida. So, 168 individuals were recovered or identified at Windover Pond, mostly seen buried in this flex position on the fetal position on their left side facing the east, so away from the sunset. Not many children, but many adults were often buried with some significant item, probably ceremoniously. Now, one male was buried with probably his atlatl from life, which is this device seen here in the middle, which essentially increases the velocity and distance that a spear or maybe a dart could be thrown at. It says dart in the picture, but I picture more of a spear in my head. Now, another individual was found with an anhinga leg, or a snake bird, buried behind their head, which the snake bird is pretty well regarded as a culturally significant animal, even had some religious or mythical value in some aspects. revolves around the fact that the snakebird flies as a bird, yet dives underneath the water to hunt. So the crossover between the air and the water. Um, a drinking gourd was recovered, so this was probably part of a practice, not by the dead ones, but the people burying maybe drank. There's no telling what could have been in it, but popular drink was the black drink, a tea, a sacred drink of the time. I like to imagine maybe they drank the water itself, as Gerald Milanchich or Milanich writes how the water is significant in the afterlife for peoples of indigenous Florida. Another item found buried with people at Windover, these ornate bird bone tombs. This is a picture from the UCF library online. You can see how this is no accident. These bones didn't just appear here because this was their last meal. They were ornately designed and placed with these cadavers in some form of ritualistic activity. So what does all this mean? The Windover Pond site gives us a look into archaic Florida like almost no other. The only other site that can compare to Windover Pond is that of Little Salt Spring, which is this image you see here in the top right now. Little Salt Spring is created by this sinkhole that is another low oxygen, low pH, not as low pH as Windover Pond, but much more low oxygen. So its preservation is also fantastic. The bodies recovered from here, like Windover Pond, are one of very few archaic sites, to have brain matter still intact, which is phenomenal. Another thing Windover Pond really gives us a good look into is archaic subsistence strategy. A lot of our findings within the diets of these people and subsistence strategies, the textiles, which were cabbage fiber made, are all consistent with the archaic subsistence strategies and textile making of the time. Utilizing river resources most of the time, mussels or fish or even manatees. So manatee rib hammers were also buried with people ceremoniously, which is sad for me as I love a manatee. But regardless, consistent subsistence strategies, and again the textile, the cabbage fiber textile and sable palms are all parallel with many other archaic cultures. Thank you.